All right, ladies and gentlemen of D-Class personnel, my name is Commander Senior Officer of Site. Go ahead and have a seat. Before we get into the briefing on the SCP you're going to be studying, I want to address the issue with the men's toilets on Alpha Level 2C. Of course, you know now that the flushing mechanism on the toilets were a prototype device used to cut down on water consumption of the site, that going green crap you always hear about. Seems the Foundation itself is no stranger to jumping on bandwagons from time to time. Anyway, as you were not aware of the new flushing mechanisms at the time, certain events have caused me to discuss them with you and assure you that the old flushers will be refitted. The prototypes worked by transporting the waste to an empty pocket dimension instead of sending the waste to the incinerator units, thereby eliminating the need for standard flushing. Turns out someone crossed a T or dotted an I in the wrong place, and the human waste was violently ejected elsewhere, about 96% the speed of light. Oh, and another thing before we start, all access to your sleeping quarters is closed off until further notice. You'll be sleeping on the floor of the hallway D1 in the maintenance area while we renovate the sleeping quarters. All personal belongings in that area will have to be thrown out due to the renovations. What we're looking at today, SCP-6270, Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. Foundation Front Company Sutter Home Medical Group is the facility housing subjects afflicted with SCP-6270. They are to provide palliative care to said subjects and are to ensure proper sedation of subjects in the event of a familial visit. The subliminal effects of SCP-6270, as well as the psychological and physiological impairments of the sedatives, have thus far remained an effective deterrent to families opting for at-home care, allowing for their permanent detention and study. Sound-canceling earphones have been provided to staff for their well-being, but are not to be worn when civilians are present in the facility. Description: dialysis is an anomalous medical condition suffered by 37 individuals who viewed the HARBINGER broadcast, a pirate television transmission that took over the Rocky Mountains PBS channel on February 15th at 01:23, 1:23 p.m. is what I'm seeing actually. These notes suck. You guys got to work on this. Airing across the state of Colorado. The condition is characterized by the alteration of a subject's somat sounds or internal noises produced by the body. In this initial stage, the sounds of heartbeats, stomach churning, and even bone cracking become wholly inaudible, instead producing infrasound noises which are inaudible to the human ear, but may subconsciously produce feelings of dread, sorrow, or unease in listeners. As this condition was not noticeably anomalous to the casual observer, initial containment consisted of outpatient observation. It was noted, however, that within the first 3 months, subjects became steadily withdrawn due to uncomfortable social interactions on account of the deleterious psychological effects of regular exposure to the infrasound they produced. Inpatient containment would begin in July due to the onset of second stage of dialysis, which would progress to hinder the subject's audible speech. While sound waves were indeed produced at will by subjects, all sounds emanating from them would consist solely of infrasound. This includes reflexive verbalization such as coughing, sneezing, belching, etc. To the public, this inability to properly communicate was characterized as a form of neurodegenerative aphasia, and patients were referred to SHMG for inpatient care. Interviews with subjects over the following weeks revealed another symptom of dialysis, namely that each subject's perception of their own somat sounds grew in intensity over time despite their inaudible nature. Furthermore, each subject claimed to hear even minute bodily sounds with marked clarity, with subject 22 describing the sound of her eyes moving as a hollow grinding, like something dragged across concrete in a large empty room. Similarly, subject number 5 had to be placed on suicide watch after attempting to suffocate himself with a plastic bag due to the stress of an ever-present weary moaning, which the sound ended up being blood traversing through his veins. Though these noises are by nature wholly subjective, researchers were able to pinpoint a possible cause with computed tomography scans. They were able to diagnose subjects as suffering from superior canal dissonance syndrome upon finding abnormally formed holes within the inner ear. Discussion is currently underway with this revelation as to whether or not this should be corrected in all subjects with surgery or allowed to progress for research purposes. Addendum: the Harbinger broadcast. The following is the original Harbinger broadcast reproduced in its entirety. Testing with D-class subjects has shown it to not confer diuresis and is safe for viewing. We'll go ahead and play it now.
They huddled and they prayed in their den, but the storm was unforgiving. The warren is empty now. Burrows ripe for taking. It is a violet hue, violet light.
It is unknown what information or instructions were to be included on page 2 of the broadcast, as on-duty engineers were able to purge the signal before it fully aired. A combined investigation with the FCC proved fruitless in finding the culprits. Addendum: subject number 31. Due to suffering from frequent headaches, CT scans were performed on subject 31, revealing what was believed to be a sizable tumor in their brain. An awake craniotomy was held to excise it and save the subject. The surgery was complicated once the brain tissue was exposed to open air and the organ began vibrating. The head surgeon initially refused to carry out the procedure as the minute movements of the organ were enough to make successful excision infeasible without endangering the life of the subject or risking permanent brain damage. They were overruled by the acting site director. Subject 31 would be pronounced dead following traumatic brain injury during the excision attempt. Removed from the brain tissue was a deposit of calcified osseous tissue shaped into a short rod with 2 prongs in a U shape, reminiscent of a tuning fork. When struck, it produced a single elongated tone in the subject's voice, sounding as if they were wailing. During the autopsy, it was discovered that the internal face of the skull was marked with multiple depressions corresponding with fingerprints matching each of the other subjects, alongside countless scratches on the medial side of the protrudous ridge near the ear canal. Subject number 15 has begun complaining of more frequent migraines. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was SCP-6270. You're dismissed.